There can be only one podcast, and may it be the Prince of the Universe. Hi, folks, I'm Matt.
Greetings and salutations. I'm Wes.
Oh, hello.
Hey.
Hey. Remember toys?
I do, fondly.
Yes. I remember, I don't know what your Christmas tradition was, but we got to open one present on Christmas Eve. Did you get that?
I did. Had the same.
You had the same
tradition.
It's wild that so many people had that same tradition, because I thought we were so unique. And then as I grew up and heard everyone else talk about it, I was like, oh, did every parent to let their kid do that? But it's nice. I don't let my kids do that. But
well, how about that?
I'm telling you. But I remember when we got to pick one present on the tree, I made sure you could feel out what was what.
Sure.
I made sure to get the action figure. I knew one of those toys with the action. That's the only one I really wanted to know about. And I'd open up my Star Wars / DC / Thundercat / whatever was cool back then, Silverhawks, and get my little action figure. And that was one of the best presents. Probably the only good present I got. Unless
it was
I got
the appetizer to more Christmas.
It was. Play sets, vehicles were nice to have too. Those were mega ones. That was usually for us. It was all three of us as a present got the Hall of Justice. I don't care. We got the Hall of Justice,
right?
Which I was just pumped about. And I think I got the Batmobile. My brother got the Superman, which why does he need a spaceship? And then another brother got Lex Luthor's little claw. Do you remember these superpower toys?
Yeah, the superpower toys. Yeah.
And then my other brother got I don't know what it was, a Justice League ship. It was like a bubble in the front, red bubble it was yellow with wings. It was a Justice League ship, was what it was called. I was like, okay. But, it was just an extra vehicle. But that was just so great. Christmases were great with action figures. I played with action figures my whole childhood and play sets. Yourself?
Yeah, about the same.
Yeah. I mean, we did get video games, and we did get Nintendos and stuff like that.
Yeah, video games and puberty kind of slowed all that up.
Well, yeah. But at the same time, we were only allowed an hour. During the weekdays, an hour, and then weekends, maybe 2 or 3. I don't know. It just depended. But, we were given a little bit more time. But we weren't given much time on that, so we had to go outside and play, which you took your action figures. A tree was a base. A dirt hill could have been
action figures into the bathtub at times.
Yeah, because it had to go underwater. When you were in the bathtub, action figures came with you. That's true. But I mean, just the little hedge in the front yard, that was a secret hideout, or the secret lair of the villain or whatnot.
Yeah, creative kid. You had to get pretty creative.
We used our imagination quite a lot, which I think is what toys make you do. They make kids use their imaginations. You don't have all the play sets. You can't get all the vehicles. So you have to get a cardboard box turns into a spaceship. We would get cardboard boxes and color them on the inside with like buttons and stuff. And, that'd be the spaceship for whoever we had. I remember my parents still have it. So either it's Fisher Price or Little Tykes or whatever. It's the children's wheelbarrow. It's got the yellow fences around it and it's orange base or whatnot, blue wheels. I rarely saw that thing turned right side up because we always had it upside down because it had like a little pockets. And do you remember Muscle Men?
The little wrestling?
PVC wrestling. Yeah, we got those all the time. We love those. They fit perfectly in those little pockets. So, of course, it became a battle station for them, And we had that thing upside down our entire life. I don't even know if we use it as a wheelbarrow. It gets used as a wheelbarrow now with my... our kids and my brother's kids. But, I mean, toys were it, man. And toys would fly off the shelves. We've talked in the past about the Sears wish list catalog.
Sure.
How many times were you basically just circling and looking through every single page? No, you didn't skip a page in the toy section.
Right.
Unless it was like, Jim / Barbie. Then, okay, we'll move past that one. But... anything with action figures, playsets, and vehicles, you spent your time looking through that catalog.
Yeah, for sure.
Today, not the case. Toys are a niche market for people our age.
Right.
There's short printings abounding throughout this, so they're only getting 2 toys per store. And unless you're there checking every day...
Yeah, it's pretty depressing to walk. I guess it's depressing to walk through a toy section. You don't have kids. But it's kind of depressing to walk through and see either they have a lot of something or they don't have anything of it.
Well,
there's like feast or famine.
Well, I think they have a lot, just a wide variety of 2 action figures. Like there's a single row of Spider-Man, but there's only like 1 action figure out of all of them. Maybe 2 different kinds. They don't have all 6 or whatever.
Well, that's what I mean. Like they'll have a run of whatever the most unpopular character is, and you'll have like 6. Like they call it what, peg warmers or whatever.
Yeah.
So you have that, or everything that you're looking at is just empty.
A wall of Rose Ticos and 1 Snoke here and there.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. It's just it's a total. Yeah, they've definitely lost their customer, and they're just attracted. They're saying we'll focus on the 35 to 50-year-old demographic with some level of disposable income.
But it's sad because as a kid, I remember doing this. Even though you knew you couldn't buy them all, you'd go through each one of the rows, pull out all the different types. You could assemble most of the toy line right then and there, because they were on the shelves. There may be 1 or 2 missing, but you had a lot of variety to choose from. Now, like I was shopping for my little nephew, I wanted something Hulk. There are no Hulk figures? No Hulk? There's a Spider-Man here. There was some kind of little baby-looking tyke Hulk, and I was like, I guess that's the only one here? But then they'd have like the real life, the all bendable, flexible Spider-Man. I was like, okay, well, where's the Hulk? Oh, here's something from the Doctor Strange movie. Just 1 figure. Okay.
Yeah, you don't have like those lines like a where you're trying to get one of everybody. Like that's where Star Wars was just so smart with.
True.
They basically got everybody.
Yeah. Everyone gets an action figure.
Yeah, even people you didn't really care about. Especially Return of the Jedi.
Everyone in the cantina, everyone in Jabba's palace got an action figure.
Right. If they had a staff, they were going to make them in Return of the Jedi.
Bring them in there. But a few years ago, Toys R Us goes belly up. People still say, oh, it's coming back. It's coming back. It's coming back as like a section in whoever bought it. A big box retailer bought it. It's like coming back as the toy section of JCPenney or something. I don't know.
I thought it was gobbled up with part of that Macy's situation.
Okay, it's coming back as the toy section. They're calling their toy section Toys R Us now. May as well do something with the rights.
Well, it's the brand they're paying for.
Yeah, that's all it is a brand name. It's not anywhere like Toys R Us anymore. Right. I mean, sure, they may have the signs Toys R Us section to pull people in from nostalgia. Maybe have Jeffrey
it's like
the
going
Giraffe.
Gambling at your regional casino versus saying, "Hey, let's go to Vegas."
Yeah.
It's such a different. It doesn't give you any kind of the feels of just being surrounded by toys.
Exactly. No. It's the same toy section they've always had. They just put a label on it now.
Right.
Now it's got a little design, a little flair. Speaking of Toys R Us, I remember as a kid, I never really got that excited about Toys R Us. When we moved here, it was KB Toys for me. I don't know why. Maybe because my mom went to the mall a lot, but KB Toys seemed to be my, sanctuary where
Toys
I could
R
go
Us
through.
opened here in like it was almost late 80s for Monroe. Mm-hmm. But KB opened when the mall opened, which was 86, 85. So I think it had like this built-in system, and it was really close to the food court. So it was almost like a destination spot for a kid, because if you were eating in the food court, you saw that little nutcracker guy, and you were like just mesmerized. Got to go in.
Because that's where all your desires and wants were.
Sure.
Now, I shared this video with you, which you'd already seen before, but some kid had his dad's VCR camcorder, and by accident made the most brilliant video ever. He decided to walk through the mall with it on.
In like 1992.
Back before walkthroughs were a thing. And so he's walking through, and it's basically a perfectly preserved time capsule.
Very much so.
That someone cracked open. It's brilliant. It's because he didn't realize the significance. I watched that thing all the way through. I was floored by all that I saw. First off, the guy at KB Toys in 1992 had a tie on. I guess he was the manager. Who dresses like that?
We should do a Mystery Science Theater of that, where we just sit down and
watch it and comment.
Yes.
I could totally do that.
Yeah.
AT&T, there was an AT&T store. It was just phones. It wasn't. They didn't sell cell phones, just phones.
Right. Yeah.
And the newest thing they were selling, did you see what he zoomed in on? The video phone. It had a hardwired, camera on it and had a little, I don't know, 2x3 inch screen where it showed a video of people calling someone else on their video phone, only for $3.99 or whatever.
30 years before FaceTime.
Yeah, and now that's on every phone,
Right.
cell phone. It's amazing that just seeing stuff like that. And the whole time I was like, kid, do the whole circle around the mall. You only did one route through the mall, and
Right.
there's multiple routes. And I wish he would have. And if it had been 4 years later, we would have been.
Right.
I mean, more people that I would have known and you would have known
Right.
would have been familiar. Like I couldn't help it. I kept looking for people that I might know.
Right.
But that was 92. That was in 4 years. You're talking a mall life. Most of those people are gone.
Sure.
By the time late 90s when we take over.
Right.
Well, you're a manager of a store. That's different.
Right.
When you're just working there, you're only there for a couple of years. Your shelf life's short.
Right.
But seriously, he throws that in 1998. It's us.
Very much so.
Probably flipping that little kid the bird. Who knows? As he's filming, or no. If it's 1998, we're telling him something DX styles we're doing.
Right.
or we were just probably in front of the store doing that anyway to everyone passing by, and he just caught it on camera. That's
Simpler times.
Simpler times. But looking at that and seeing KB Toys, already I got excited. There's a little bit of a kid inside me that's like, that just made me happy.
Sure.
Just see, like you said, to see the toy soldier, because you knew what it meant. And that got me more excited than Toys R Us. Were you a Toys R Us kid?
I think that like I said, Toys R Us got to us, I was probably 10. So it was where it's the dying days of action
Right.
figures, because by, for me, 88, 89, that's like when Nintendo really took over, and Sega and all that
What saved us
stuff.
was the 1 hour rule. So it was until we moved here, till I was 13. 12 years old, I was still with action figures.
But I've always enjoyed walking. There's a special side to that. Our good friend Ralph, he told me years ago when I first met him, we were going through we were at his mom's house and going through all of his stuff, and he was like, there's just a point in your life where you realize you don't come home and play with your toys. So there's we're all hit that point a little differently as guys. Right. But going back to being a Toys R Us kid, I can remember there's a Toys R Us in Shreveport, and where my grandmother lived, it was like the in-between between Monroe and Shreveport. So she would get the Shreveport paper, and I can remember looking at Toys R Us ads as really young and being like, oh, what is this? What is a Toys R Us? Because it was 100 miles from us. So
right.
It might as well have been in California for
right. No, I got it.
a 6-year-old kid. But I can remember the big paper flyers, because KB would do them, but they were nothing like Toys R Us. Toys R Us was like the Sunday paper.
So by the time Toys R Us came, you were basically out of it.
Well, I wouldn't say
89.
Yeah, well, it was.
Was it?
I want to say
80s?
it was 87, 88. I mean, I was getting out
toward
of
the
it.
twilight years, because 89 was the year I started getting out
The
of it.
last
too.
few years, the last thing I remember as a kid, really investing in was G.I. Joe, and then after that, it just kind of waned out because I had kind of ran the gamut of that stuff. And you got some of the last run of stuff, like you always talk about Silverhawks and stuff like that, which was very much the tail end, like Captain Power.
Yeah, I remember him.
There was something called, I think it was Sectors. It was a insect action figure line. Yeah. So
we played something called Star Command. They had magnets on their feet, and they activated. If a magnet hit the thing, it would activate the ship or the lift or the base,
right?
or
Just
something like that.
Gimmicky type,
gimmicky things that we loved.
Yeah.
In fact, I can't remember what the last toy I got was. Yeah, I just don't remember. I may have gotten a G.I. Joe. We rarely got G.I. Joes, and maybe that was it. I just can't remember. Before we left, I think someone had given me a G.I. Joe, because my birthday was... I was gone. The move happened during my birthday when we moved here, and I think someone gave me an action figure. I want to say it was a G.I. Joe, and that was basically the last action figure I may have gotten. Do you remember anything about what might have been the last toy?
I want to say
action action figure wise.
Yeah, like I said,
Because I mean, Nerf guns I was still buying. There were still toys in a way that I was still getting.
I would say like big time collecting was G.I. Joe stuff, but like I said, this Spotty stuff, I always remember that like insect action figure line, just because it was so weird. Like you put your hand in, it was like a little black glove.
I think when we came here, the one thing I remember, I don't think we bought any, but I remember we played with someone who was here when we were kids. When we first came here, it was called Guts, little PVC commando figures.
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah.
Or at least I don't remember it.
But
I think the Toys R Us thing it was so just overwhelming. Like I said, compared it to the Vegas thing. Like when you go to like a real big city like Vegas or something like that, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And for a little kid going into Toys R Us when it was just stacked so high, even though I was like growing out of that, it was still. And then when I got older and turned into the hobby of collecting, it was. There's just something fun about that.
Yeah, Toys R Us was the place we got our video games from. I remember they had a little separate video. You took the little card and then handed it in to the person behind the little...
Which was brilliant because you cut down on all your loss prevention.
Yeah, 100%.
So whoever came up with that idea was pretty smart.
Yeah, and if you couldn't get it from Toys R Us, then you went to KB Toys or something else.
You paid a little bit more.
A little bit more, but you needed that new Super Mario game or whatever it was. The Tecmo Super Bowl or whatever that came out.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing we go to. Back growing up in Jackson, Mississippi, we'd go in the mid-'80s. They had Toys R Us.
Sure, that was a big
city. But they also had another place called Toby's Toys. Now, for me, I thought those were the two big comparators. Toby's Toys was obviously just copycat Toys R Us. I didn't know that, but we bought from Toby's Toys because I just thought their toy selection was better. And for the life of me, I can't find
Was
them.
it a big store?
Yes, it was a giant store. I want to say just as big as Toys R Us. Remember, I was 10, so everything was big.
Well, there was a store here that was there before Toys R Us came in.
Oh.
That was here for a short time, maybe a year or two. It was called Toys Plus.
All right.
But
Toys
I remember
for fat kids.
Can you say that anymore? Anyway, I remember we went. It was like the grand opening of it, and I can remember they had a guy dressed up like Destro. You could take your picture with.
That's pretty cool.
And I took that picture.
Oh.
Yep.
With Destro.
Yeah.
Maybe he's still around here.
It was not as cool as when you see that picture. You go, nah.
But it was cool as a kid.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's what matters.
Right.
That must matter. We stretch our imagination when we're kids. So today, kids don't play with toys as much. It seems like they have a, little laptop or what's it called? The screens, I can't remember what they're called now. Tablets, thank you. I obviously don't have one, but everyone has a tablet. My little nephews have tablets. That's all they want.
Sure.
They get over here, they want to know the internet. Wi-Fi passwords. So they can get on
Met69.
Watch the maybe Mets 69. You mean the first
right.
time we won the World Series? Correct. Is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about? But anyway, they that's all they want to do, or watch TV. And that's it. That action figures just aren't a thing. My brother kind of got frustrated with them because action figures came and went when they were very, very little,
right?
Much younger. And my brother even tried to get them into Hot Wheels because he was we were big Hot Wheels fans as kids. I loved playing with the cars, running them across surfaces, and you just drive them around. We had a whole box of Hot Wheels toys.
I was not a Hot Wheels kid at all.
Oh, well, my brother was, and he would always buy them for them if they wanted one.
Sure.
But they just never got into it. So there's a lot of things they just didn't get into because it was like the only thing that they really liked as kids were the Nerf guns. That's really what they asked for when they were little. They'd rather have a Nerf gun than an action figure. So they were like 6 years old. It's like, hey, what action
figures
do they
Talk about a market
like?
that doesn't exist anymore. You could, in like 1987, you could walk down an aisle of a department store and there would be nothing but guns.
Yeah.
To play with.
Yeah.
There is no way for that now. Total different time.
And then and back then they only had the orange cap on them.
Right.
And even before that they didn't have orange cap. I remember when they started putting the orange cap on them, I didn't understand why. I said, that is so ugly.
Right.
Why did they do that?
Right. This doesn't look real anymore.
Yeah. Because I did have some guns that did not have the orange cap on them.
Well, most
growing
kids
up.
our age definitely, because that was the decade of action heroes.
Yeah, we had the little Uzi that would you click it, do the multiple click
Yeah,
sounds
of
when you
course.
pulled it.
Yeah.
that was the coolest weapon ever. It was black. You could hold it. It was an Uzi.
Yeah.
I don't see kids playing with toy Uzis anymore, or nunchucks, or stuff like that, or.
Only if they're standing in front
At
of
the
a
county fair, you could buy real ninja stars. Everyone was buying them, throwing them at each other, or throw them into wood.
Sure.
But that type of stuff. M16 rifles. You got one for your birthday. It goes clickety clack.
Yeah. It's interesting how that totally has just completely went away.
Yeah. But I wish I would have kept that stuff because it's worth tons of money now.
Yeah.
Getting those little toy guns back in the day.
I think the action figure thing, for now, I think part of the problem, which I think goes to a lot of things, is when big companies buy up all of these small companies, their creativity just kind of dies out. And I understand that they want to make a profit, but you've got to have some trial and error. And like you said, if you just go in and you've got 18 different Spider-Mans, after a while, a kid has enough, which is one of those Batman lines, the Batman lines from the late 80s, early 90s. The way they got around that was they just kept giving Batman all these different
costumes that
right.
didn't make any sense.
Didn't make any sense, but hey,
scuba Batman, hang gliding Batman, gold plated Batman.
Bobby doesn't have this Batman, so let's get him
No,
this
I get
one.
it. I get
so
it.
it was a smart way of doing
whatever we can get off whatever we can sell. But when I go through the toy store, I was slightly surprised about a year ago to see that a lot of the toys with the toy packaging, the same way it looked like for us, is there. You want the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? They cost $12 a piece now, but they're there. The old packaging is there because they're trying to appeal to us.
Right.
Same thing with Star Wars. I love it, but
The
they have some of those
retro lines.
original. It's the newer characters, but with the original backboard. And I was
Yeah.
like, that got my attention because I remember that. So that's when I've always known this, but I was like, oh, they're really trying to step up their catering. And nostalgia-wise, they're reprinting a bunch of old toys that we had back in the day.
Right.
And here they are again. Will you buy them a second time? Will you buy them a third time? If they're your favorite, possibly.
Yeah.
There are some toys that will never come back. I think they were just masked. They just weren't that popular.
Yeah, they just can't seem to find a way to get that off the ground the way they thought they were going to.
Yeah, but Transformers, they'll show some of the original packaging for the original Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, and so I was like, well, that's pretty neat. At the same time as I'm not going to waste 3 times the amount of money that I spent originally, but I mean, you're not going to.
I just don't think that you don't have the TV outlet that really fueled so much of that.
And the cartoons that were made specifically to sell
you had
toys.
like a 2-hour block
Yeah.
of cartoons right after school. So you're looking at 4 different toy lines right there that you're going to get to choose from. So it was like this consistent marketing that you did not get away from when you were a kid.
Right.
And now they're serving so many different masters, your audience is so splintered.
So what do they do to survive? Because toy sales are shrinking as a U.S. industry every year, and by massive numbers too.
Well, yeah, you can walk in like bigger department stores like just Target and Walmart, and you can see just how consolidated
Oh yeah,
it is.
Oh, yeah.
Into it's almost like a seasonal item now. Like it's
the
so
seasonal
tucked
item.
away.
Plus, there's a lot more baby infant aisles. Back in the day, there's only one. Now there's like 3. Because it's really the only people who buy the stuffed animals, the little baby toys, the little Fisher Price stuff. That's really all that. I mean, like my little girl's playing and stuff like that. Little boys playing. I mean, you're talking like you've got a very small window now, 4 to 6 years old. When they get 6, they get their own tablet and it's gone.
I just think that it's just a generational thing where it hit. It's kind of like, well, when are Little Green Army Men going to come back? Well, they're not. They're just going to come back in a different
as a
way.
novelty at Crackle
like
Barrel.
your muscle guys,
Muscle Men, which I wish
from
they
the
would make
80s.
again.
So like it was the same play, just in a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah,
I don't think it can come back because it was so much creativity in that time period, and it was fueled by TV, and you had limited amounts of options. So every little kid knew what something was. Like now everything is so splintered where it's just so diverse that you don't have like this big pocket of kids to
But even for
brainwash.
that, because I watched a few videos on this, on the collector side, collectors are frustrated because they don't know when these are coming out. They don't know, their stores don't get that many, and then they get sniped on eBay, for 10 times the amount, and they've given up collecting because they're so hard to find. Instead of making it super rare, why not make enough to where everyone can have one? If it's a nice, action figure or whatnot. The last time I remember thinking it was a great gimmick was there are these Marvel figures, and if you bought a few of them, you could connect them to make a giant Hulk or a giant Galactus.
Yeah, a lot of those Legends figures, they did all that kind of stuff.
That was smart.
Yeah.
That was smart. It forced you to get characters you probably wouldn't get.
Correct.
Because you needed the left leg of Hulk.
Right.
And the Hulk and Galactus action figures were pretty good.
Well, and I think that kind of goes back. That gimmick kind of was a big part of what Transformers were when you got the Constructicons and you.
Oh man, that was great.
You built Devastator or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, we're going to market you into buying more stuff. And
smart move.
Right, but it's out to hey, let's try this, and it worked well. I mean, you really couldn't play with that thing. It was so huge.
Yeah.
I don't use that in real life. But anyway, it was something to look at least.
I bet it was because it was so huge, right?
Right, it was. I mean, I'd never seen anything like that before.
I'm telling you what, the girth of those action figures.
More than meets the eye.
I'm telling you. Okay. All right. So we're both not saying that action figures are going away. Or that the toy industry is going away. I know that. I just think they're going to be marketing toward a much younger. Eventually, the older people are going to get. In fact, from what I hear from collectors, a lot of them are kind of giving up.
Well, I think that a lot of, if you get into this rabbit hole, there's a lot of people on YouTube that make a lot of good creator content that could be pretty critical. Mm-hmm. And I definitely think that Hasbro has to own a lot of that because they bought everything up and they have done
they're really the main player now.
Haphazard way of keeping their market stimulated. They've had such big misses with those Star Wars movies, and that stuff just rotted away.
It's harder. In fact, you kind of hit on something there. It's harder to keep a franchise or toy line dominant. I mean, toy cartoons back in the day had a shelf life of 2 to 3 seasons. That was it. They were
tops.
Done. They were tops. That was it.
I mean,
1 year probably, but a good one that I remember going forever. Mask only lasted 2 seasons. Transformers, the original, only lasted 3?
Well,
so even these more dominant...
But so much of that was syndicated with, like, a large amount of episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have that anymore. And what you do have is...
But I'd say even less now because there's so much coming out at one time. Like Jurassic World or whatever. Forget getting those toys. No kid's going to like it that much. Unless the movie's out in that 1 month they really like dinosaurs. Then guess what? Thor comes out, and then they watch that, you know what I'm saying? Then they're done with that, and they want to go back buying Marvel.
Well, I think it's smart to keep our generation, interested in your product. And they do have creative people. I mean, you've got McFarlane still in this 30 years.
How's he doing? I haven't seen any of his
he's
stuff.
tied up with that DC stuff. I mean, he redid the Superpowers line that's out now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so, I mean, he's got his finger in a lot of it, which I think is a good thing, regardless of how critical people may think of Todd McFarlane. I just think that they've had so many misses, and they've made all of this like Kickstarter stuff, which just leaves a bad taste in people's mouth. Like, don't make a $1,500 Jabba skiff if you want people to fund like Kickstarter. It just, that to me just does not come across as like a consumer-based industry.
Oh, I agree.
Because you have all of these other third-party people that are making like customizable things with like Star Wars stuff. I mean, it's just so much stuff that like Stan Solo or something like that. I've watched stuff on. I could be totally wrong with that name. That may be something off Brazzers. But anyway, they make different, like, the creative people aren't working for Hasbro.
No.
The corporate side
it seems like the
of
most
toys.
unimaginative people are.
Right.
I agree with that.
So I think that hurts a lot of it, because when you watch these old documentaries, and I know that revisiting history is very much whoever tells that story is going to tell it the way they want to. But there was a lot of creativity. Like, you went in and you started here and you worked and worked and worked until you got to the final product. And now I don't think there's any level of that to stimulate that market. And I think that also with Marvel being what it is with Disney, you've got so many
big powerhouse.
Yeah. Just it hurts it.
No, I agree with that. All right. Well, hey, folks, let us know in the comments here. You guys have been very vocal in the comments before, and we appreciate that. Where's the toy industry going? Where do they need to go? What do they need to do to change? Do they need to change?
What is left? I think that, to me, is a lot of it. Like, if you say, okay, in 5 years, with the recent, the past couple of years of collecting everything has just made prices kind of jump around. Like, what is left to really capture the market?
Yeah, where did they go? What's new? What can be more creative? What do they need to bring back that you think worked and they need to bring it back? So there's got to be an answer out there. I just don't have it.
Yeah, I just think that the biggest drawback, and I don't want it to it sound political, because it's not. I just think when a big company owns everything, your return on that is gonna be subpar.
That's true.
You got to have somebody chasing that, and if there's nobody to chase it, then they're going to get fat and lazy.
Well, there you go. There you go. All right, folks. Well, again, tell us what you think, and we'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe.